Welcome back to One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. I'm Brian Rabacs, joined alongside Danny Scott. And right now we are very lucky to be joined by Nick Carparelli. He's the executive director of Bowl Season, which promotes all the college football bowl games. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
My pleasure to be with you guys.
So with Bowl Season recently in full swing, I just want to ask you, how exactly did you get involved with Bowl Season? And for those unfamiliar, what's the organization really all about?
Yeah, so I was hired a little over 2 years ago as the executive director of the Football Bowl Association. That organization had existed for 30 years and was nobody knew what the FBA was. It was more of an internal trade association like any other group of like businesses coming together. They had an annual meeting and they all kind of do the same thing. So they shared stories, et cetera. But when they hired me, they wanted something bigger and better for bowl season. They felt that was our time of year, that we were really kind of the halo brand that pulled together all 44 bowl games. And we were essentially the March Madness of college football. We were just never organized in a formal way. So we created the bowl season brand, adopted that name officially, created a logo, and we're using that platform to celebrate college football for that 3-week period in late December, early January, where so many people turn on bowl games and watch them.
Yeah, going along with that kind of idea with how big of a festivity is, how important do you think like bowl season is, and what does it kind of mean to you as the director of bowl season?
I honestly feel that bowl season is one of the greatest promotional vehicles for the sport of college football that they've had, and it's been around for 100 years. I think sometimes when you have something exist for so long, you take it for granted. But if I were to tell you, if the bowl games didn't exist, and I were to say, you know what, I got this great idea. At the end of the regular season, every team that's 500 or better gets to play one more game against a team that they wouldn't typically schedule in a part of the country that they wouldn't typically play, and give those communities across the country an opportunity to experience a level of college football that they're not used to seeing in person. What do you think? I think most people would say, wow, what a great idea, but how would you ever execute that? Well, the bowl season's been doing that for, like I said, for 100 years now. And it's really special. It's meaningful. All you need to do is look at the television ratings. The Alamo Bowl and the Music City Bowl had two of the top 3 viewership of all college football games on ESPN all season long. And those games ended on December 30th. We have a whole batch of games on December 31st and on New Year's Day that we haven't gotten the TV viewership numbers from yet. But having watched some of those games and how exciting they were, I can't wait to see how many people watch those games.
Found it very interesting diving into the mission statement of bowl season, what it looks to accomplish. And one of those things is highlighting the distinctiveness between each bowl game. Can you discuss how this is done and the importance of doing so?
Yeah, it's not something we have to try to do. It's just kind of the way it is, and actually bowl season's kind of pulling all the bowl games together. But at the same time, we never want to take away from their uniqueness. Every bowl game is different, and their uniqueness is based on how long the bowl game has been around, the history and tradition of those games, where it's located, the part of the country, what's unique to that part of the country. Every game does a great job of showcasing their community and the best that it has to offer to the world during the broadcast for sure. But during the 4, 5, 6 days that the schools are in town experiencing those communities, they're really unbelievable opportunities for those student athletes to go places they've never been before and to experience things that create memories for them that last a lifetime.
I saw going along with that a little bit too. You were very instrumental in creating the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. Can you just talk a little bit about that and why that was so important to you to bring a bowl game to New York City?
Yeah, I think for a number of reasons. At the time, I was I worked for the Big East Conference. I was the deputy commissioner in charge of football, and during the years of Big East football, we had some very, very successful seasons, some successful programs. When it came to bowl season, we were always kind of the visiting team. Our schools being located in the Northeast had the furthest distance to travel. It was harder for our fans to get there. When the new Yankee Stadium was built, I had the idea. I approached the Yankees. I said, we should have a bowl game here. Even though it's going to be cold, Yankee Stadium's unique. Christmas time in New York City is unique experience for people. And it's been, 12 years ago, we started that game, and it's become very, very popular. Teams lobby to get into that game. I think at a higher level, though, it's really important to expose the college football's postseason to the Northeast. There's a lot of people that live in New York, a lot of people that live in New England, in DC. We have the Military Bowl in DC. We have the Fenway Bowl that hopes to kick off next year up in Boston. So to have a postseason college football presence in the Northeast, I think is really important to the game.
We're talking with Nick Carparelli here on One, and it's very, very cool how bowl season seems to touch more than just the players on the field and expands more than just the game itself. So how do you feel bowl season impact reaches outside of the players and the product put on the field?
Yeah, so these games are community-based events, and the communities that host these games are extremely proud to host this football game and to showcase their community each season. And while the average fan might turn the TV on for 3 hours in December and watch the game, what they don't see is that the year-long schedule of activities and events that benefit that community, all revolving around the bowl game, whether it's bowl games sponsor various things such as youth football leagues, road races, community uplift activities, whether it's refurbishing a playground or rundown sports fields, or some of the philanthropic activities are flat out, donating money or grants to people in need in that community. Teachers is something that bowl season has really gotten behind with our Extra Yard for Teachers program. All 44 bowl games have donated money to teachers to use for their teaching efforts, for supplies in the school, and really, really great programs that benefit the community outside of just the game.
Moving over to a little bit of a darker side, I guess you could say nowadays, with the COVID pandemic, bowl season kind of got interrupted a little bit this year, and some teams were pulling out of games. How difficult was that for you to deal with, and how difficult was it to try to find teams to replace the teams that backed out?
Yeah, that was certainly an unfortunate situation with the 5 bowl games that planned on playing that were not able to play. I think this year was a perfect storm. You had COVID still lingering. Let's all keep our fingers crossed that that'll be resolved next year. And that obviously was not an issue unique to bowl season. I think we're dealing with that in everything we do. At the same time, college athletics is seeing, the transfer portal open up and student athletes having the ability to transfer more freely than before. And with anything new, I think you're seeing a higher amount of student athletes wanting to transfer now at the beginning of that new option than they will in the future. And then the third thing is, you're always going to have a handful of opt-outs, guys who are entering the draft that don't want to play. That's a very small number, but you pull together all 3 of those factors that are rearing their head at one time. That's what made this season challenging. But I also think it's something that's an aberration that you're not going to see often in the future.
And kind of going off of that, last season must have been an incredible challenge with, limited amounts of bowl games and then, limited fans in attendance. So with this year providing a little bit better circumstances, how important do you think it was for college football and college football fans to get a full bowl game schedule, or close to a full bowl game schedule once again?
Yeah, I think it was extremely important. You saw that starting Labor Day weekend with the regular season, how anxious people were to get back in the stands to watch live football in its entirety with all the atmosphere. Television ratings this season were off the charts. And then it got to bowl season and fans wanted to go to a unique place to watch their team play. And, we saw a lot of great celebrations at the end of these bowl games. I saw, you see Coastal Carolina and the way that team reacted after their bowl win. You see UAB upsetting the highest ranked team in BYU that they've ever upset in their history. You see Kentucky beating Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. I was there, an SEC team, but just so elated to win that bowl game. They've won 4 in a row now. Stories across the board. So extremely meaningful to everyone involved.
I paid very close attention to the whole season this year, and it was one of the most entertaining seasons I've ever watched. There were so many upsets, and there were so many great bowl games that happened over the week, and the Rose Bowl was probably the best game I've ever personally watched. How do you think this season and this bowl season has played into the rich history of college football?
Yeah, it plays very favorably into the history. I don't know how they rank. I wasn't alive for all the bowl seasons, and I certainly don't remember all the ones I was. But it's hard to imagine a better bowl season in terms of the unique matchups. Teams that wouldn't normally schedule each other, the scoring, the upsets, the celebrations. You mentioned the Rose Bowl. Watching that walk-on quarterback for Utah come in, I was nervous for that kid, and to have him throw that touchdown pass. I know they lost the game, but what a cool moment that was. That Purdue Tennessee Music City Bowl. It was kind of like whoever had the ball last was going to win, and I think that's how it played out, and that was so much fun. So we there's a lot of examples of that, and I don't know if it was the most exciting bowl season ever, but it quite possibly could have been.
I want to quickly shift gears to the fact that you created a podcast called Bowl Season Stories, and this essentially brings on guests within college football, and they discuss their own experiences with bowl games. So I want to ask, what went into the creation of that podcast, and how does it enhance the bowl season experience?
So one of the things we tried to do in creating the bowl season brand in general was to use it as a platform to tell all the great stories about bowl games. Again, people turn on the game for 3 hours and they think, it's easy to think it's just another game, but these former players from, a few years ago to many, many years ago, all have the same types of stories, going to a unique location with their friends, with their teammates, having a lot of fun, playing a bowl game. And they have these memories that have lasted them a lifetime and are some of the best memories in their life. And so we simply created the podcast to use that as a platform to hear all those great stories, to tell all those great stories. And we've had some amazing guests from Tony Dorsett, Kirk Herbstreit, Coach Dave Wanstatt, Daryl Moose Johnston, Rocket Ismail, Tony Casillas, on and on. Guys who just talk about their bowl experiences and a lot of them talk about the opt-outs these days and how they just can't understand that. Every single guest we've had has said we would do anything to play one more football game. None of them could imagine saying, boy, I wish I skipped my last game.
There's been a lot of talks over the recent years that there are too many bowl games. As the director of bowl season, do you have anything that you would say to anyone that says there's too many bowl games nowadays?
Yeah, I guess I would ask them what you're basing that statement on. No one's forcing teams to play in bowl games. No one's forcing communities to host them. No one's forcing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million people to watch bowl games. So I don't really get the question or the statement. We had a situation this year where there were it was possible that there was going to be a bowl eligible team left out, and you would have thought we were, telling them they had to end their football program. They were, so distraught, and we found a way to accommodate all the bowl eligible teams this year. So, and then when we had a couple of games where a team backed out, there was no shortage of teams that were willing to fill in. We had some 5 and 7 teams that raised their hand, said, we'll play. We had teams that already played early bowl games, said, we'll play another. So I don't see any indication that there are too many bowl games. The question mystifies me, to be honest with you.
Talking with Nick Carparelli here on One. And we have one last question before we let you go. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but by the time this airs, we'll be 2 days away from the national championship game between Georgia and Alabama on Monday night. So I'm just going to throw it out there. I got to ask, number one, how much are you looking forward to this matchup? And if you got a prediction, could you give it to us?
Well, I think the SEC is going to bring home a championship. I'm pretty confident of that. I look forward to, most college football games. Who isn't looking forward to the championship game of any sport? This is the Super Bowl. It's Game 7 of the World Series. It's the college football championship. It's the pinnacle of the season of the sport. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to seeing it. If I had to pick one, I think it's hard to pick against Alabama until they prove that they're not worthy of being the national champion. Then I'm going to have to go with them.
Got Georgia and Alabama for the national championship on Monday night. And that will do it here. We just talked with Nick Carparelli, Executive Director of Bowl Season. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Great job, guys. Thanks for having me.